Hello and welcome to another episode of Power On Podcast. 00Status. I'm one of your hosts. What a got a 553. How you doing? And with me is the I don't know.
Perplexed.
Perplexed, the sole proprietor of.
We tried that one last time.
Did I say sole proprietor?
No, you said something else. I think you were looking for P adjectives, and I think I said proprietor.
How about this? The spooky. I got lots of spooky things around me, so I'll use spooky. The sweet, salty, spooky. The Snapple. I'm just picking up words now.
Yeah, I don't know what snacks you're eating and what. Yeah, you're in a weird place tonight, my friend.
I'm kind of tired, to be honest. Like, I don't know. I feel like how Craig probably felt throughout half of this movie, at least. I was just the hits. They kept coming.
Yeah.
But how are you doing today?
I'm kind of in a similar boat as you. I'm a little tired too, but I'm always up for a good Bond movie and a good discussion. So I will carry on, as I know you will too.
Let's sally forth.
Yep.
Right. So, unfortunately, I put you in the driver's seat, and you went with it because I picked Casino Royale. So this is your leading this dance.
I'm leading this rodeo.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, all right. And we discussed that several occasions that this is probably just the right method of travel, right? To put this movie right after Casino Royale. I was kind of hemming and hawing, thinking like, should we do something else? But then to come back to this movie after, not that it won't make sense, it just fits. It would be kind of odd to push this maybe 3-4 films down the line and come back to it. Or can you imagine if we had like a 15 film gap in between or something? It would be very odd.
That or how we started was just random drawing and we drew this one first before.
Yeah, that would be pretty odd. So we probably made the right call to eventually just kind of flip-flop by choice rather than leave it all to chance.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta put the cards in your favor.
Yep, for sure. Stack the deck just like in Live and Let Die.
Yeah. Maybe not quite, but
with those goofy 70s looking 007 cards that just yeah. Anyways, so yes, as I said, I thought it was probably just the right move to step right into this. But I am curious because you haven't told me what your next pick is going to be, and I can't quite narrow down what it's going to be in my head. But I am curious to know what you would like to follow up after this, just because we've now had this duology and we're obviously going in some completely different direction. So looking forward to that. But anyways, with Quantum of Solace, there still seems to be a lot of dislike for this film. Like this, if you ask someone of the 5 Craig movies, it almost always is at the bottom of that list.
Yeah, and I don't get it. I still don't get it. Mind you, I still haven't watched No Time to Die, but it seems like the energy really started to peter out. Third one in. Really, it just from the method of it, let's make these some sort of continuous storyline. Let's have all these pieces, parts carry and be this thread. And then the reason why you probably don't want to do that starts on your second step. Kind of important. First off, you have the large gap. Oh, then there's the whole bankruptcy thing. Oh, and then there's a writer's strike.
Right.
Great. So, and then surprise, you get the license for Spectre trademark back, and then we just shoehorn that in. So it's
a mess, and probably one of the biggest problems that people have is I think they came off of such a high with Casino Royale, so the expectations were probably way too high that this was going to be some sort of perfect follow-up.
That, and probably that this movie comes off as very, very grungy.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a clean-cut movie like you would expect for, where's the... Yeah, certainly there's a brief moment of a party. But
it's very frenetic.
It's frenetic. It's fast-paced. I kind of appreciate it in certain ways. I do wish there was a little bit more for Felix. He gets kind of chopped a lot off.
He does, yeah.
Well, especially with the rewrites. The rewrites like took more and more out, and I was just like, yeah. That's unfortunate.
Because when he pops up, he certainly has a role to play, and it does feel as if he had more lines, more scenes that are just missing. Like, what's there, you still understand what's going on with the character,
right?
But it just feels as if, yes, lots was left on the cutting room floor. Like, there was supposed to be more here, and it just doesn't manifest.
Well, yeah, it doesn't help that you have that goober Beam. I can't stand that character.
Yeah,
like if there's one that deserves, and not that the guy playing him was bad, but
no, it's just the character.
They made a point to make that character just
dislikable.
I want to punch you so much.
Yeah,
because this movie's only like an hour and 47 minutes or so.
Yeah, I think you said 146 to me.
Yeah, 140. Yeah, it's like 146. I think the credits and stuff made it like 147. It's not. It's a pretty quick
credits. This movie had credits. Who is being credited since there was
it has
all
credits
other
because it has a
problems.
phenomenal end crawl song. That's the ending thing that's playing. I love that. That's such a good song. Like that drum rendition. Oh, it's so good.
Well, with all of that said, why don't we jump into those likes and the areas that we feel are strong for this film, and then we will back end it with the.
Well, did you watch this in the theaters?
I did not. No,
you did not.
So,
okay.
So my experience with this movie is a little bit odd in that I didn't see Casino in the theater and then caught it later on television. And same with this movie, I would catch it in long stretches. So I hadn't seen it in one full sitting until now. Actually, I knew the whole movie. I had seen from start to say midpoint, and then I'd catch like a quarter of the way in until halfway, and then I'd sit down another day, and then I'd catch maybe the last 20 minutes. So I knew everything, and I knew the sequencing of everything. It just hadn't seen it from start to finish in one plain straight sitting.
Okay.
Until this time. So, and obviously now I have. So it was interesting, my experience of seeing this film, and it may actually have influenced my impressions on this differently than perhaps the average film goer who might have just sat through the whole thing and plus paid for it. So,
right, yeah, certainly be a bit of a needling point. Right. I don't remember seeing it in theaters. I know it came out in November of 2008.
Yeah, sounds about
right. That was my last year at college, and I don't remember it. Not like I was blackout drunk or anything. I was a very busy boy, and it was. I could have seen it. But I don't remember. I do remember watching it when I was in Japan, handful of years later, and I liked it, but I didn't like it as much as Casino Royale. I was kind of like, it's one of those things where I try to give it not the benefit of the doubt, but an understanding of, the writer's strike, running, kind of running out of money.
Yeah, that too. Was MGM also at this point trying to basically fight off suitors that were trying to buy the franchise out of them or something?
They could have.
I feel like that was going on at this time too, and MGM was about to potentially lose the franchise. Period. Like somebody, they were going to have to sell it, or it was a lot of stuff going on in the background that really ultimately influenced the production.
Yeah. So like I tried to do one of those things where it's like, well, because I do this like with Xenogears, I'm always like, well, thanks to 7 being so popular, they basically funneled all the money out of it because they're like, well, this can't be Final Fantasy 7, it's too dark, and Final Fantasy 8 is going to be super duper money, so we're going to pull the rest of your money away. Have fun, Takahashi, have fun. And it's like, why? So I try to be like, oh, well, they didn't have any money, it's okay. I kind of do the same thing here. They didn't have any money, it's okay. Like I try to, but like I watched it a couple times, and I think I let one of my coworkers borrow it, like one of my Japanese coworkers borrow it in Casino Royale, and she's like, I like the Quantum more, and I'm like, okay.
Interesting.
And then I did not watch this until today. So,
okay.
yeah, it had been a hot minute.
Okay. Fair enough.
So, yeah.
All right. I did preface this to you before we started that I did have a funny little scenario play out at work recently.
Okay.
So I forget what I don't know the lead up to this, but I know what it was. There was someone had come in, hadn't met them. They were doing an interview, and that's beside the point. But anyways, the comment that was made after the interview, aside from obviously the details of how it went, the comment was just, oh, this person had really pretty blue eyes, and I said, oh yeah, and I said, it's funny you say that. I just was recently watching Casino Royale, and I was just kind of mentioning how often in the movie there was like a blue backdrop to highlight Daniel Craig's eyes, kind of thing, and they were like, yeah, like this is a little bit older person, and they had just mentioned like, oh, I love that, and he's like, is that the one where he drops off a guy in the desert and leaves him the motor oil? And I thought, oh, that's really interesting that you remembered that. I said, no, it's not. That's the next movie. That's from Quantum of Solace. And this is prior to watching it for this sit down, but obviously that's a pretty memorable moment in the film. And I just thought that was interesting. And I said, oh, I love that scene, like just particularly that scene. And I said, oh, cool. And not, that was the end of the conversation, but I just thought that was kind of interesting that was brought up, as a Daniel Craig kind of James Bond moment. And it's like, oh, neat.
That's a pretty brutal moment too. Because he just tosses him that, like, what is that?
I figure you'll make it 20 miles before you consider drinking this.
Right. What did he give him? He doesn't give him...
It's some kind of motor oil in a can.
Yeah, it's like a lubricant.
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
Something.
It's just like, oh, have fun with that.
Yeah. Oh, and then the fact that he did attempt to
right
to use that, seemingly at least, because he did have 2 bullets in the back of his skull. So
dun. Well, he just fell down some stairs.
Yeah. 2 perfectly sized, holes. The burn marks through the skull and everything.
Right. Yep. Totally.
I do like that M basically insinuates that Bond probably shot him because of stuff that's happened prior to this moment, and he doesn't bother to defend himself. He's just like, don't know anything about that. But as a viewer, we know that's not the case. So. But yeah, anyways, so moving on to some of the strengths or parts of the film that you really like. I know I did pick this movie, but I'm open to bouncing off on either of us on these ideas.
I kind of mentioned it just a little bit ago, but like I don't mind the frenetic pace for this one. Sure, you could have buffered it out with 10, 15 minutes of showing the travel between going, one place or the other, but they left it to the one point that it really deserved it, but also needed it, where it gives it that little bit of a just kind of a breather, and that's the plane ride with Mathis. I think it's just a very well put spot for that scene. Good to have that back and forth. Good to see Mathis again.
Yep.
And poor Mathis, but
yeah.
it also helps for the character to try to, like, because they're trying to give this more of a. In some hands, I'm always worried when they're like, "Oh, we want to make this character more human." I'm like, well, I mean, I get it, but in the same hand, it's like, like, what does that mean? No. But I'm glad with what they did here was you really start to see him really start to be quite how do I want to put this? Not psychotic to a fault, but especially with, like, when Fields dies, he's really just like, okay, all right, gloves are coming off, sort of thing, but not a, I don't know, the
uncontrolled rage,
the reckless that he had been before. It's yeah. So
yeah, it is one of the few quiet moments in the movie, and the levity that Mathis brings to this movie is interesting because no one else can seem to get through to Bond, and it's unique in that I don't know if Bond still 100% trusts Mathis, but I think deep down he wants to trust him, because even though at the end of Casino Royale, what is the line? He says something, all this did was prove that she was guilty, but not that Mathis is innocent. Yeah, there's like, Mathis is still not clear to being innocent. It just proves that Vesper was guilty, which is still kind of incorrect, right? It's still, the lines are still actually really blurred for either or side. But regardless, he does go back to Mathis, and then the back and forth that they have is just, there's still, it reminds me of from Russia with Love, the back and forth that Bond has with, why am I forgetting the character's name? His contact in Istanbul.
Oh shoot.
The names escape me. But there's a lot of parallel there in kind of the, not really mentorship, but sort of
a little
guidance.
Bit of a guiding.
Yeah, sort of the guidance.
There. Yeah.
And so, and Mathis is a very charming character. He's a quite, I would assume most audience people would feel, I don't know, not enamored, but closest to him. He feels like a human being.
Very charismatic.
Yeah, he's charismatic, but he still feels somewhat realistic, and even more so in this movie. Like he's been brought down a lot, and he like just he's definitely hurt by what Bond did, right? Because remember, he's like, well, I don't even let this guy mess. Don't give him the good wine. It's like, you just drink cheap wine.
That's why the wife's like, well, he
got you this house.
In a way, he got you this place, so
so you actually owe him. Inadvertently, Bond got him, something good, even though there was not the intention.
Yeah.
So yeah. I agree.
Bey, like Ali Karim Bey.
Thank you. But, yes, that's the character. So I do see some parallels there with that character. And so, yeah, it is nice that bring it down. And I too do not mind the frenetic nature of this movie, of just, it absolutely conveys the rage and unhinged nature of Bond at
this moment.
Yes. Because even though Casino almost hints that that's not going to be the case, like his attitude when he's on the phone with M, and then when he gets to Mr. White, like, he's pretty calm, right? Like, he's not driving up like a madman shooting at him. It just, calls him in, shoots him in the kneecap, and that's it. But after bringing him in, it's just like, you get that crazy car chase, and it's just this full blast, this movie, right? It's just full blast.
You get
until
the shot across the water slowly, and there's points throughout the film where it hums quiet, where it just kind of goes quiet, and it's almost like it's not I don't know if it's a directing choice or if the sound equipment just went a little weird, or my Blu-ray is off, and I'm just
no, the sound definitely went out. So
okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if the financing.
It was like, hey, we're
I'm assuming it's a director's choice, though.
Well, that's what I was working impressions were.
Like when they're in the desert and stuff.
There's in the desert at the beginning.
Yeah.
It's certain moments where there's just it gets just quiet, and I like it. It's just this quiet, and it's almost kind of reinforcing that just focus on this. And I'm just like, yeah, I can get behind this, because I think sometimes, whether it's in books, whether it's in TV shows, movies, music, it gets a little too noisy, and sometimes you just need that, like, have that bar of rest, have that whole note that just sort of carries on and then just sort of peters out, and then let it be quiet for a moment. You don't have to have a. It's like no, focus. So, yeah, I think it reinforces it.
Yeah, and it's definitely a technique that's used in a few movies, and I think even did we not have this happen in a couple of the other Bonds with Craig, where like it's like an explosion goes off, right, and it's kind of to signal like he can't hear anything, and so you're kind of in that moment with him of you get little snippets of like maybe bullets flying or somebody screaming, but it's so hard to hear because your ears are ringing. So, but yeah, here it's definitely done to. It's a nice effect, and it's not overused. It's not overstaying its welcome being used every time an explosion happens or something like that. So
right.
Yep. So I do like that as well.
So yeah, there's a few things I like. I mean, I've got more, but I'll throw it back to you to see if there's.
I will say I also do like the a lot of the fight scenes. The only one I don't really like is at the beginning with the weird reveal of Mitchell. I'm not. We'll get into those negatives, but like that one's kind of like But a lot of the other stuff is fun, like flying the plane, and they don't have weapons. The fight.
I felt the plane was a little disorienting.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like I don't know. It just seems a little. I don't know, with it in junction to the other plane, because it feels like there's like 3 other planes there. Not quite, but it feels like there should be other vehicles flying about. And it's just, I don't know. It's not bad. It's like you said, fun. But then the parachute bit like bothers me.
Oh, the parachute is yeah. But we'll get to that. But yeah, the part's kind of. I guess that does lead to one of the other quieter moments, right, when they're sort of trapped.
Right.
But those are they don't. Yeah, they're pretty few and far between in this movie. It's quite breakneck. Like you're pretty much go. You're in a car chase. You're in a foot chase. You're on a motorcycle chase. You're in a airplane chase. Right. There's a lot of boat chase. We don't really get a train chase here.
That'd be kind of hard.
Yeah, I mean, like a car chasing a train. Like you could have done something. I don't know. Anyways, it wasn't necessary. There was enough, like, a lot of these sort of action sequences. I like a lot of the hand-to-hand fighting. I think it's not too. When this was that time period where there's a lot of. Shifting the camera, move. Oh, you just expect that there's martial arts happening, and you're like, okay, I don't see. I'm seeing maybe an elbow start to move, but then it's cutting to this other angle. And
what was that first Batman movie?
Begins.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the worst. 2005, I want to say.
I think yeah. Yeah,
that definitely kind of put a trend. It's funny, we went from The Matrix where it was like everything's in slow motion so you see all the moves, and then we went to this frantic pace of this is what a real fight would be like. Okay, that's not wrong. A real fight would be very dirty and a lot of flailing and things like that. But this is Hollywood. We're still here to see, if I go to watch a martial arts movie, I don't want to just imagine that kicks are being thrown. I want to see
Unless
a guy with skills.
Or,
but that's including stunts and stuff now. But if I want to see a martial artist doing moves, like I want to see it. Yes, I know it's not realistic, but that's a martial arts movie. It's okay. I'm expecting to be entertained, not I don't need the historical fight. A sword would never slide down past the hilt. It's okay. Like,
yeah. You get some of those curmudgeons where you're just like, all right, Dad.
Yeah. I've seen people like try to break down Star Wars. Like, well, realistically, it should slide. I'm like, it's just a movie. It's okay.
Right.
We're here to be entertained. If you want to make a historical drama and show like that a guy got his hand cut off because it did, fine, but we're just here to be entertained. So yes, I found like the one fight in the hotel was really good, right? Like I thought that
the
was
elevator.
Like that was nice, kind of gritty fight. And then even the fight with Dominic Green was kind of gritty. And the funny thing, Green he's not imposing, right? Like he's not imposing.
He's got an axe. That's imposing enough.
He gets an axe, all right. And it does not end up in a very nice place. That's pretty visual. That's pretty graphic, actually.
I wince when I say that. I'm like, oh, no. Yeah. Just because, axe to this, and I've mentioned this before, but like, that was a chore for me as a kid, was to chop wood and everything. And that's a
big fear.
Well, less a big fear because you never want to like think of that, but that's like, hey, reminder, don't put this in you. Do not make sure you like. No, there's been plenty of times where
note to you.
Note to self. Axe hit log.
Axe hit bone, not good.
Yeah, right.
But that's pretty graphic. Yeah, pretty graphic considering for a Bond flick to show. It's like, ooh, ouch. So. So I found a lot of the action was still somewhat frantic, but you can see what's going on for the most part, and I appreciate that.
You know what I also appreciate?
Well, give me a hint. Like that's a little.
No, I was just going to lead into it, but Bond's penis does not cure anything. Like Camille's, her troubles there.
No, it does not.
So, I was fine with that. Like, she was quite fine on her own until she, takes not until, but unfortunately she takes a boat to the head at one point, but
she does.
During the boat chase scene when
I'm saying she does. Oh. And she's knocked out there on the boat for a bit.
Right.
So.
Which, it happens. Mm-hmm. Bad things do happen. But
she's a pretty tough cookie though. Like she's a good sidekick. The only thing I found with again, we'll get to the negatives. Let me hold off on that, but I'll hold off.
Okay. Yeah. Little, how to put it? Maybe the cards are held a little too close to the chest, partially because of the whole quickness of the film and whatnot. But I appreciate that she's not a certain 2 movies prior. Because that not to jinx anything, but that I think they certainly failed in that one.
Yeah.
But they, I think, hit a much better mark on it with this one.
Well, in the previous movie too, right? It seemed they were trying to.
Well, I mean, in the action sense.
Well, yes, for sure.
That's more of what I'm more of like somebody.
I'm thinking even just in the general character sense, because the characters were not good in that movie either. Just action nor like sense. Writing or performance. So,
but that can be left to die another day.
Yes, it can.
But Yeah, so I would say that's like you said, the Dominic Green villain. There's not like some sort of oddity about him outside of just being like a swarthy looking
a scumbag, basically.
Scumbag.
Yeah.
Like,
he's a really good choice for playing somebody who, could blend in a crowd, but if you get into a room with him, you'd be like, oh, you wouldn't like this person.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. I think he's not overly memorable for a grand scheme of like, here's all the Bond villains. He's probably going to be closer to the bottom of the list, but he's sufficient in the movie, for what he needs to do. Well,
because this is still sort of like a side. This is a little bit of a side movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I do. Maybe it's just from watching it. Maybe it's from watching it so quickly after Casino Royale. There are echoes to how he acts with Le Chiffre.
Mm-hmm.
There's just this.
He's a stepping stone.
Well, the stepping stone, but also because he turns and everything. But there's that arrogance of I'm in control, like when he's talking with that general / presidente.
Yeah.
There's just this. Oh well, we have this. Oh, you won't do it. Well, your balls will be in your mouth, and I'll get somebody who will. Right. You're gonna kill me. Have fun with that.
Yeah. Was you gonna charge him 60% higher rates or something for the water or something?
They had 60 some odd % of the country's water.
That's what it was. But he was going to charge him a higher utility rate than they were paying, or whatever the number was. But
right.
Yeah. So, and he gets his comeuppance in this. Like it is interesting though that going back to Le Chiffre and how much a lot of people enjoy the performance of Le Chiffre and the sort of menace that he can bring. This character doesn't really bring a menace, but he actually has a physical altercation with Bond that Le Chiffre doesn't really end up having, which is interesting here.
I mean, Le Chiffre does get close and personal,
but they don't really get
a
chance to tussle like this movie does. So
yeah, which is fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's just interesting that they went this road because again, he does not necessarily have an imposing figure, which is something that's often if we have a Bond villain who is a bit more smaller in stature or what have you, or plays this kind of like slimy entrepreneur or whatever, they usually don't end up getting involved in a physical altercation, right? It's always like there's a big henchman that does all the dirty work kind of thing. But here we do get that, so okay, that's different. And as we already spoke about, like the sort of ending point with this character is pretty satisfying.
Right.
Not so much for him, I assume, but
right.
But yeah, no, I like that too, and I'm just thinking of anything else that immediately comes to mind for you.
I like the soundtrack. I know I mentioned it for the song at the end, but just overall, I like the soundtrack. It didn't quite stand out nearly as strong as Casino Royale, but I thought it was good.
Okay, I'm on the opposite. I don't think it's memorable whatsoever, and not that it doesn't fit the movie. I don't. There's nothing that makes me really like it for any particular reason. So,
gotcha.
Not one of the more memorable David Arnold ones, I feel. And on that note, this is leaning into the negatives. There's no real callbacks to the theme song really in this movie, or at least not that they're not chiming in my ear as I'm watching the movie. That you get a lot more of that.
What
in
theme
the other
song?
films.
There was not a theme song. The only theme song I'm aware of, because it just skipped over. I had a quiet, however long, to see the visuals for I will say this: the visuals for the theme credit, the opening credits, I like visually.
Me too. Yep.
The theme song does not exist. because it should have been. I gotta look up the. Do you remember what the title is?
I cannot remember. It's I think it's Forever Yours or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up because I totally forgot. I should have looked this up.
So this theme song, I have listened to it because I did get a copy of the Bond theme songs, and I can listen to this song if I can devoid it from this film. It's still not like a particularly great song, but something about it, I'm like, okay, it's something different. It absolutely does not fit this film whatsoever, like in any stylistic manner at all. The lyrics are forced. They are. It's like, oh, another pull a trigger for Her Majesty, and I'm like, well, this has nothing to do with this movie at all.
It's not only forced, but it's Forever I Am All Yours by Ava Almer and Christian Wolf. Mm-hmm. They were able to put Quantum of Solace into the song.
They did.
Of this rejected theme, which is infinitely better. Pause this, listen to that, and then come back. That is the theme song for this.
You should link that to this episode.
I will, because it's a phenomenal song.
It's really good, yeah.
In general, and if I'm gonna bring it up if I can get it. Must somehow get to it.
So the one YouTube
there's a
upload of that.
Yeah, there's a comment about it.
Yeah.
That he explains what happened.
Yeah, and that's what I was just getting at too. Yeah, and it's really interesting. Yeah. And what were they like? He says something where we're one of the finalists of. I don't know if he gives a number, but and he said, we were given a task to put all this sort of theme from the previous movie into this title's theme song.
There's 3 or 4 contributions that were being chosen from, and theirs was one.
Right. And I think they just tried to, I'm assuming, as everything else that was a mess for this movie, they probably thought we have to get known performers.
Jack Black, super big at this time with that 7, what's that song? 7 Nation Army.
Yeah, no thanks. I never liked that song the moment I heard it.
I don't mind it, but
no thanks.
It's whatever.
But anyways, yeah. So and Alicia Keys was pretty well known at that point too, from what I remember.
Oh yeah.
So odd pairing, right? Like very odd pairing. But again, like I've listened to this song, and if I don't think about this movie, I don't love it, but I'm like, okay, passable or whatever. Like it doesn't bug me. But then as soon as you go to watch it with these credits, and you're like, okay, not only does it not fit with the credits, it doesn't fit with anything to do with the theme of the movie. And they obviously knew it after, because it's not utilized anywhere in the movie. So it's bad, and the theme, it doesn't fit any motif in the film. It doesn't. So it's just it was a really bad call on whoever made that decision. Unfortunately,
what a shame.
And to skip out on the song that you had just mentioned, which it's such a great tie back to Casino. Like so much of the lyrics are setting up, what this movie, and I guess, I don't know if this movie, how much was cut and changed. And ultimately, after watching this movie again, though, when I hear that theme song, I immediately think of Casino Royale. I don't think of Quantum of Solace. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing, and I don't know if that's more, if you will, fault of the film, because it doesn't really answer the questions that the song brings up, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So, but anyways, it is a very good song. It is really too bad that they didn't get a chance to have that be the theme song. It would have been, and it would have been different. Like, it's always been some known performer who sang the theme song, so it would have been very different to pick somebody who is not as internationally recognized.
Well, then it pivots into it's classic, but it's still its own thing. Mm-hmm. Like, you could pin it there with something like the GoldenEye theme, mm-hmm. or anything that's been sung by Bassey, I can never
Shirley
say her.
Bassey, yeah.
Bassey,
It has a bit
like,
of that 60s sort of mentality to it, but it's very modern.
Yeah, it's such a good song.
Yeah, it's a really strong song. So it is unfortunate. I wish they would have chosen it.
Yeah, so so the next time somebody watches it, just pause the film.
Go upload this track.
Watch this. And then go back to the film. And
Yeah, just skip the whole like
the
actual,
credit.
yeah. That works.
Yeah, because, yeah.
So funny, we've kind of trying to draw out a positive and a negative at the same time. Any other really strong points that you think need to be recommended here?
I do like the locations, except for the ending, like hotel thing out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Just because it just feels like, oh, we need a set for an explosion.
Like a lot of movies, unfortunately, but
right.
Hey,
It just
at least they
really...
did the explosions. Like those to me looked like they were. There was a couple that might have been CG, but it looked to me they actually blew some stuff up,
which is always appreciated.
Yep.
But I like for the most part, like all the different little, not the main, oh, it's in Rome part, but it's like all these quote unquote odd, off the beaten path, not like a place you would think of for Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Just different parts of South America.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's quote unquote grungy, but it's just that, was it Haiti, I think, before?
Yeah, that's right.
Before horrible earthquakes.
Yeah.
But, Haiti doesn't look like, during the filming of that and stuff, it doesn't get quite the grungy billing that like parts of Italy and different parts of South America end up getting. Mm-hmm. I thought so.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that. Like the comment. I'd rather the point where he comes back with Mathis and then Fields is there. And then they stop at the little
hotel. Yeah.
And he's like, absolutely not. I'd rather be in a morgue.
We're teachers on sabbatical.
And then they go to that hotel and they're like, hey, we're teachers, like missionaries. We're missionaries on sabbatical or something. We're missionaries on sabbatical.
Teachers.
Was it teachers?
Yeah, he's like, we're teachers on sabbatical, but we won the lottery.
Yeah. I love that. That's such a, it's
beautiful hotel.
It's a beautiful hotel, and it's just a funny, just a funny transition there.
Yeah, it is pretty funny.
Cállate.
Yeah. I have just two things that I've got left. Did you have any other big ones?
Go for it.
So we've talked about Mathis a little bit here, but yes, I don't want to kind of leave him out too much more. I think his whole arc here is sad. Unfortunately, a reality in the Craig films, right? Like that we're expecting. This is one of another of those like, oh, geez, seems like there always has to be a pretty big death in one of these movies, right? One of these Craig movies.
Could say that the specter looms large.
Yeah. But yeah, there seems to be a significant death, we'll say, in each of them, and so Mathis ends up being the one called to by the Reaper for this one. And that whole scene is just such an interesting. You could probably watch the scene 10 different times and conclude 10 different reasons as to why it ends in that fashion. I'm still not sure. Like I'm conflicted of like, does it mean this or does it really mean that? Like, why was this the response of Bond in this moment of this situation that occurs? So, but he's obviously he's acted really well again. It's fun to watch. Would have loved to see a bit more, but the ending, it feels oddly fitting, but a bit maddening because you're kind of like, geez, I wish this guy would pop up in another film at the, somewhere down the line. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's ties back into what he gets shown in there, the Casino Royale, and just even a dead body has its uses. And,
right.
And it's just sometimes that's just the way the cards fall.
Yeah. But his quotes in this movie are really good, right? When he's like, I think she has handcuffs, let's hope so. And, you've only been gone for a month and they've already forgotten you. Oh, you're just trying to say that to hurt me or whatever. He's just so whatever at this point. And for him to be convinced to go to Bolivia almost makes no sense, but you're glad he's tagging along anyways. And then again, that really heartfelt moment on his side of, he's trying to get Bond to crack and tell him something, but he knows he won't. Even, he's like, what are you drinking? And he's telling him all the ingredients of the martini, but he's changed one ingredient. It was, what was it supposed to be? It's Gordon's gin. And what's the other ingredient that he's changed?
It's not
vermouth.
Yeah, something like that.
He's changed one ingredient, and that's when Mathis looks at him kind of like, what the hell? Like, that's the Vesper you're making, but you've changed one ingredient so that it's not the Vesper. And I was like, yeah, I like that. I like that, this is still Bond's way of not letting go, but pretending he can let go.
Right.
So yeah, it's just, and that's where I'm fascinated to I could probably watch just the Mathis scenes of this movie again and again and again and just always question what's really happening in these moments. And, even like he comforts Mathis in death until he doesn't. So he uses Mathis as a human shield. Right? Like he pulls Mathis out and he sees them, he doesn't hesitate to put Mathis in harm's way. But he cares about him. So it's very interesting.
Well, yeah.
He uses him as a shield. I think you can watch it again, and you'll like it's very fascinating. It's probably one of the more unique relationships that this Bond has like of any of the 5 films. It's just. And it's kind of lost, I think, as the series moves on because, now the Spectre thing comes in and we were pulling all the strings and all this stuff that this relationship kind of gets forgotten.
Right.
And it doesn't help that these movies are so spaced out by time. We're talking this starts in 2006 and doesn't end until 2021. So it's a long go, like between movies too. But yeah. I don't know. I just think it's fascinating. I think go and watch it again, and I feel like you might question, what's happening in each of those scenes differently than you might have the first time.
The very kind of little small thing. I do like I like that Mr. White pops up again. And that he doesn't move, but in the background you can see a fuzzy Bond walk past. I like that a lot, actually, because it's just kind of like, oh, okay. It does help a little bit, because it almost, not almost, but it gives the quantum, that sort of subsidiary of Spectre there in a way, kind of thing. So
I guess not everybody likes Tosca or whatever he says.
No,
not everyone enjoys.
Well,
Tosca is the opera, wasn't it? Was that not the name of the actual opera? But he says it to his wife, right? And I guess not everybody enjoy.
Opera and Tosca sound very close to my head, so.
But yeah, and then you're right. You see the fuzzy Bond walk by, and he doesn't. I assume he doesn't see him. But yeah, it's just it is an interesting. That's an interesting scene. That's a pretty memorable scene, I think, for a lot of people from this movie, just because the giant eye thing, and
Right. Just the stage, and
Right.
also you're getting the players, like, quote unquote, sort of, but not really.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I just have the one more that I'd like to hit. Is there anything else you want to tackle?
No.
And this is the sort of final sequence of the film. In Russia, and there's a lot of bouncing. Don't we go to Italy twice in this movie? Because we're in Italy at the start, and
because
then
that's
goes back to Italy a little later on to get Mathis.
No, it goes. Well, they're in Austria for a moment, and then he goes from Austria back to Italy.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Like I know because there's some points in between, but just we do end up in Italy in two different locations in Italy. And Spectre too. Now that I think about it, are in Italy for the car chase.
Right. Well, that's why I mentioned Rome.
Yeah. But here in Russia, and we get not a full closure, but like some closure on the Vesper thread with tracking down her phony lover, or whatever he considered, because Bond gets the photo early on and he swipes it.
Right.
As if how did nobody know that he took that thing? It's just like
we're missing some very incriminating evidence.
Yeah, it's like sitting right on the table. And
there was also Mr. White gets away and Mitchell.
That's true, but
so
they're a little distracted with other issues at hand.
Right.
But anyways, yeah. So he swipes that, and at least that doesn't just kind of fall by the wayside. I suppose they could have addressed it in a future film, but we do get that connection in Russia and we find out what's this guy's name? Is it Kabir? Yusuf or something?
Yeah. Kabir. Yeah. Yusuf is kind of what it gets mostly addressed by, I think.
Right. And that he's basically trying to do the same thing, and we get hints earlier at the opera, right, where they're talking about we need to. I forget the wordage, but they something like we need to talk to the Canadian or something, right? They're saying something like this. And it makes no sense. Like as you're watching until the end, you're like, what are they even talking about? Like there's been no mention of anything to do about Canada or nothing. So we don't get that kind of small payoff until near the end. But then we see that Yusuf is trying to trick, for lack of a better word, another
seduce
agent into Quantum's hands, kind of thing. And I like that Bond is just basically telling her everything, about her. Yeah, but he's telling her everything about. He knows everything at this point, right? And I like the reveal of the necklace, and I like that she's so calm and she doesn't sort of overreact as an actor. She's just sitting there and she's completely embarrassed, right, that she's allowed this to happen as he's explaining everything to her. And I do like the little just like thank you as she's leaving.
Right.
I appreciate that. And then the goofball being like, just make it quick. It's like, nah, man, you didn't deserve to make it quick. Like, you really didn't.
Right.
He doesn't pop up from what I recall anymore, though.
No, he gets shuffled off.
Yeah, like, but like later on, like it's weird that he doesn't somehow, doesn't pop up like in any manner. Like you'd think he would escape or something, and Bond would see him and gun him down or something.
Blofeld Inspector has him appear. I'm surprised he wasn't.
It was really Vesper in a mask and prosthetics. Something stupid. Thank goodness, no, nothing that stupid. But it is weird that he doesn't pop up. Like even like him being, like you remember Inspector when they had all like the photographs and stuff. Like they didn't have him like tortured in a room or something, right? Because he screwed up.
Tortured, but just like mocking.
Yeah. Well, or even like Spectre torturing him themselves because he screwed up and he blew like, their lead on the quantum aspect of their agency or something, right? We don't get anything about that. Or like Blofeld's off comment of like, we ended up killing that guy or something. We just nothing. Like he's just gone.
He's just gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
But I do like that there's a little bit of a tiny closure piece that is weird because it sort of gets reopened later, like, but not in Skyfall.
Yeah, this is the problem that I kind of have with the Craig era in general, is that you set some things up in the first two films, and then it just feels like it's on loop for the next two.
Just little bits, though.
Thematically, in certain ways. Oh, I can't trust you. Oh, I can't trust you.
Oh, that's the whole way through, yeah.
You're getting too old.
He's gone renegade again.
He's gone renegade. And it's like, I get it. Like, at certain points, it's fine. But then at other points, it's like, hey, you know he's on your team. Why? Like, I don't mind it for this one. Because,
it's the first kick of the can, yeah.
Right. So it gets that benefit of the doubt on this one, unfortunately, or fortunately, or at least in its case. Like, I kind of like that antagonism. I like the antagonism of the, like, they sprinkle it in there, but, like, just the whole, well, if you couldn't do deals with the bad guys, then we'd have nobody to deal with, kind of thing. Like, right. It's kind of nice that it shows England's kind of in a bad spot. And I think it's not prominent stuff in the film because it's going at such a fast clip, but it does, I think, set up nicely for what problems sort of crop up, even though they don't really go, like, dig too deep in them once Skyfall and Spectre show up, because it's 7 years down the road, so they've kind of forgotten what they were even writing.
Probably. Well, and this one being kind of so messy with they probably were like, we're just going to kind of shuffle this one off. And the bad response from the audience probably didn't help matters. So, and they probably really wanted to we better just kind of...
Just like, let's pivot.
Yeah, let's just do something completely different here. But yeah, I do like that it tries to at least give a bit of that sort of smidge of closure, not completely, but it does addresses something to do with this, the case of Vesper, because it is the focal point for Bond going rogue here and just doing whatever he deems necessary to find answers.
So what is something you dislike in this film? Something maddening.
The editing is an absolute nightmare in this movie. Like, there's so many random cuts, there's so many shuffled cuts, and it feels like they tried to stitch this scene to that scene, and there's no way you can beat around the bush with it. It's just badly done. It is very badly done.
Yeah, just a little.
It's probably one of the worst, if not the worst. Out of all of the Bond movies, it's likely the worst. It really, the only thing that saves it is because the movie is so frenetic. Right. If this were a slower paced movie, you would be even more jarred by it.
If it was slow paced, that would be, I think, that would be pretty miserable.
Yeah, because From Russia with Love is kind of a somewhat slower paced movie. Yeah, I couldn't imagine how much of a disjointed viewing that would be. Here it's so bad. Like, there's just nothing else to say. It distracts you in so many times. Like, thank goodness they didn't do it with those couple of slow moments. But all
they had
of
the wherewithal to do that.
Yes, but all of the other stuff, like in the hotel and those explosions going off, and it's just you're looking at Green on one angle, and suddenly he's on the left side of your screen, and you're like, what just happened here? Like, it's just really too bad that happened. But again, when they're trying to put a movie together quick and they're trying to rush it out the door, that's what happens. So yeah, that's definitely probably for me the largest sin of the movie.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It's pretty. It's like one of those those late info commercial sort of things where they try to sell you one of those like little chopping, like the chop.
Yeah.
The chop.
Instantly chops your apples into perfect slices.
Yes. Kind of did that.
And they always say some stupid like, cut the core, eat some more. Like, some
trying to get it.
really bad, like, rhyming lingo.
Some Johnny Cochran catchphrase to really sink it in your brain to be like, yes,
I need this in my life.
I have to buy this at 2 a.m.
I like that. I know I reference The Simpsons far too much, but remember when there's that Troy McClure and that's that orange juicer, and he pours like that. It's with that Dr. Nick, and he pours like this huge bag of oranges into this orange juicer, and he's like, is it always this quiet? And they're like shouting at each other because it's so loud.
No.
And the thing's vibrating like fiercely, and like juice is flying everywhere, and then like a single drop falls into a cup. And he's like, "You got all that juice from all those oranges?" And he looks so proud about it. Like it's one of the older, like it's probably like a season 3 or 4 or something. But and he's at first he's like, remember this is the only way to get orange juice out of an orange, and he's pushing it on his forehead and his eye, and like all the juice is going in his eye, and Homer's like, you mean there's another way? Because he's doing the exact same thing to get it into the cup. Oh yeah, it's just like, and then and he's like, we'll throw in the free, what does he call it? It's like a laxative suntan lotion. And what does he call it? I can't remember the name now, but I'll find the clip and you'll see. But he's like, sun and run, I think he calls it. He's like, you put it on and instantly, protection from the sun. And then like Troy McClure puts it on, but he instantly like has this look on his face like, oh god, I gotta go to the bathroom. He like runs off screen. I believe it's called Sun and Run.
Oh jeez,
it's disgusting. Like, we'll throw it in for free if you buy the juicer. That's the one where apparently everyone's like, oh, The Simpsons predicted the pandemic, because that's where the guy coughs into the box and then it opens up and the virus is like flying around the city attacking people.
Okay, I don't remember this episode at all.
And it waits for red lights. Like one cloud waits for the red light while the other one like flies across with the green light.
Okay.
It's so stupid. Anyways, yes, I don't know if I'd go as far as saying it's like a bad infomercial, but it is very bad editing. Like I can't imagine this editor was asked to come back for future films.
Or it was just a miracle on just stitching it together with what they were given to be like, maybe okay.
Yeah, it could well be. Could very well be. I will say another one is Camille is a good character, but I still feel like she could have used some more development time.
Mm-hmm.
And Strawberry Fields obviously even more so. Like I feel like the two female leads are unfortunately underutilized here.
Yeah, Fields, one of those things that you could have just not even had in there.
Yeah, it could have probably been any character, really.
Other than it's they're there just to really pinpoint how just cruel but charismatic Bond can be. Whereas with Camille, it's kind of like, you could have taken, extended the movie out a little bit more to give her a little bit more of just instead of just a quip on an airplane about being Bolivian Secret Service.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she's still given enough to do that you're interested in the character, and she has. It's nice that the parallel there of that revenge piece is paralleling with Bond, which is nice. And then, like the moment when they're buried in the rubble and stuff is a good moment as well. But I can't put my finger on exactly what, but I just feel like a little bit more would have been nice, because they obviously didn't want this to just be, a complete throwaway character, which ended up being the case for Fields. Yeah, just a little bit more would have been nice, I think. And I'm glad, like you said too, that they didn't try to shoehorn the love aspect. They certainly could have, because it was the formula up to this point to do so. But it's nice that they kept Bond. He's just so one track at this film that even though, yes, there's a time with Fields, here it's just like at this point in time, there's just there's no need for it, and it's not at all crossing his mind that there's a moment for this to happen.
I don't know how I don't know if I would say it's a negative, but it is kind of like, wow, they really dropped the Minority Report after this film. Like MI6 tones the cool table techno thing in the window and everything. They cut back on that.
Yeah. No gadgets.
I mean, it's neat to see that, and it makes sense that there's really not going to be gadgets. It's like, this is not a gadget one. There's
not really time.
No laser watch.
No.
No time for the gadgets.
Yep. No time for gadgets.
Next Bond film. No time for gadgets.
Hopefully not.
It'll be called Engage.
Yeah. Bond's gonna have multicolored eyes and yes, whatever. Anyways, yes. Yes.
So, but yeah, in one hand, that sort of thing is understandable. But yeah. So.
Yeah, I could see that. Again, not really necessarily a big piece of the film, but I'm trying to think of what else kind of doesn't work here. I mean, again, the editing hurts that those cuts to those other countries. Like it'll just say, what's the one? Is it on the road? And it just says like Italy
London
or something. Yeah, like what London. Yeah, I think you're right. And they just there's not a nice smooth transition. This movie, one thing we've talked a lot about is really showcasing landscapes and landmarks, and this movie doesn't really do that a whole lot. Which is, again, was this due to time constraints? Most likely, because I've heard for a lot of those other film shots and stuff, they do take a lot of time to go out and, there's the Taj Mahal, and they've got to set up and get permits, and so not a surprise that, with all the backstory here, that probably wasn't a priority.
And they wanted a really quick, short window that they had to extend. But for this film, so it's like, oh yes, let's get it done in this amount of time, and then at the back end it's being extended, so it's just super brisk pace.
Right. Yeah, so I think that's too bad, because most of the time these movies do showcase really well something unique about the locales that they're in, and we don't really get too much of it here.
Underwater water. Underground water. Get a cave system. Yeah,
and the plot point doesn't bug me, right? Like it's...
No, I actually like it. It's
it's a feasible, resource that if you controlled it, you have a lot of power. So it's just like, I'm fine with this. This makes sense to me. So, I feel that the opera scene is a little bit, I don't know. It's not bad, but I don't necessarily love it.
Well, he disposes of the one that's coming up. That it's kind of like, is he just coming up to come up? It's, he is. The technology is kind of funny with this. There's the flip phone, but then there's just the phone that he has. That's that Nokia. That's
Vesper's phone.
The one that's taking pictures and stuff.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's Vesper's phone. No.
Yeah, and it's just like, getting super grainy picture, but enhanced.
Yeah, it automatically
right.
is able to face recognize the individuals.
Yeah, off of like 3 blurry pixels
from a very long distance,
and at night. So
at night too, yeah. So. Yeah, on a cell phone, it's not. You go ahead and try to use your cell phone at night and take a picture of the moon or something.
It's not very good, unfortunately.
No, it is not. So
even nowadays, it makes me sad.
Yeah, we're not quite there yet. But yeah, I could see that. Again, these are kind of not big issues, really.
It's just chuckle.
Yeah, just kind of like little bits here.
Well, I will say this though: the one where he dispatches the dude by just like dropping on him, who's just evidently mesmerized by his feet going upstairs to not look up. What's going on?
He sure took a long time to get up those stairs too. Like I don't know how far up he was and how far below the other guy was, but yeah, that was a pretty, because it was really like duck, 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 take some photos, duck, 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 duck. Like it was almost like an old cartoon of showing Wile E. Coyote run up something while the Roadrunners is like off doing something else, then showing Wile E. Coyote still running up something. It was a little bit like that. So a little bit weird there. But.
The little plot thread totally doesn't go anywhere. It's there, but I don't think they do a good job with it, with the whole, not the prime minister, but he's like, what is he?
The bodyguard or whatever?
Yeah, he's like an envoy or something.
Mm.
Yeah, to Haynes or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, this is kind of bad. And then Skyfall kind of doesn't, and then it's like Spectre, oh yes, they're coming about to really neuter MI6.
Mm-hmm.
Thus the country.
Well, and that does trickle down, right? Because we do see that in Spectre. We do see that to some degree in the final film.
Mm.
So it does kind of have a trickle effect after this movie. But
with
greatly.
Haynes, though?
No, not with the Haynes character specifically.
Yeah, see, that's kind of what I'm pointing at. It's like, you get that thread does
a little bit
continue,
of the government sort of, yeah.
Right, but it's Haynes doesn't ever come up again.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like,
Spectre probably addresses it the strongest with the whole, I can't remember the name of the guy. Remember, he's installing all of the cameras and the networks and stuff.
Right. He is Boris Light. He just doesn't have the cool, I am invincible.
Yeah.
It's just, it just doesn't.
He's an exploding pen. Felix is underutilized, as we said before, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. Jeffrey Wright is a really fun character in these movies, and you want to see more of him. Like he's got some charisma, and
he's got great charisma for being a curmudgeon in this movie too. He's just like, man, this is stupid. Why are we here?
Well, the look on his face when he's like, this man, and how pissed off he looks.
It's like, no.
He's like,
that's
just James Bond.
Yeah, like that's probably the worst. Right. Like the worst cut, because he doesn't even look at the phone, and he just beams like, "Oh, that's a James Bond. I didn't know."
Well, didn't he look at it first before he passed the phone?
He looked at it first, but then he doesn't look at it again. I don't think. It's just
or very very.
It's just it's really like it's a bad delivery or something. So that sticks out in my mind so bad. Just be like, shut up. Just shut up.
Well, and it feels like there's a missing moment there, because at the end when M says, oh, Felix was promoted and Beam was, I guess, demoted or removed from his position, but it's like you feel like there should have been an actual scene of like the CIA at a table promoting Felix and kicking him out, or like it feels like there should have been a scene of that of some kind, but
I don't think so. I think saying it passing is better. No, because because it's mostly supposed to focus on MI6 and stuff. You really don't need. I think her saying that is plenty.
You didn't want to see Felix getting like
It would be
a
nice.
Medal of Congression or something.
I would love to see Felix to get that, but
yeah,
I don't think having that little tack on there would have been necessary.
Yeah, a testament to Jeffrey Wright, though, as you said, like he does not pop up a ton in this Craig era but for what he does pop up, like you really want to see more of him. Like you are interested. Think of all the other Felix actors that have just as much screen time, sometimes more, and you're just like, movie. Get off screen, please.
In one movie compared to what he seems to get.
So yeah, and it's like, get off screen. This is bad. I'm thinking of, say, Goldfinger or to a lesser extent, The Living Daylights, right? Like, and it's not bad. You're just kind of like, oh wow, like he just seems kind of not as useful, but yeah, like the Jeffrey Wright Felix Leiter doesn't have a lot to do or say, but you just still something about him is intriguing. You wish there was a little bit more. Like it would have been cool if there, like the moment in the bar. Like I know the
back and forth there is hilarious.
Yeah, he couldn't necessarily stand up for Bond, but he's doing what he can from the shadows kind of thing. Right. But we never get like an action sequence with the two of them at any point, anywhere, which we've never had with any of the other Felixes really anyways. But yeah, it's just too bad that I guess the closest Dr. No, they're not really quite an action sequence, but
right.
Yeah, so
their back and forth in the bar is great.
Yeah, it's just too bad that
take that as a compliment.
There's a bit more. Well, again, like how many lines did they share there? Maybe 15 to 20.
Yeah, I'd probably put 20.
So yeah, it's really well done, and yeah, it's fun, right? Like, and I just wish we got a bit more Felix.
Agreed.
I think that's all I'm gonna share on that negative end of the spectrum. You got anything else?
I think I'm good myself. I don't think there's really, like you said, the antagonism is not the most strong, not the strongest, not the most prominent. It's there, but it's like one of those like sliding Japanese doors with the paper windows that you just kind of poke through and stuff for the most part. So.
You mean like what we're going to see when we do get to You Only Live Twice?
Yes.
Mr. Charles Gray and his amazing acting.
Yeah. All right, well, on to scores then. What would you score this?
I am going to give this a 5. Okay. Honestly, because I really don't know the hate for this movie. The only things I can think of is just people had just way too high expectations after seeing Casino Royale and maybe somewhat to a degree like you. I can recognize that there were problems behind the scenes that obviously affected this entire production. But remember when we watched Man with the Golden Gun, and I think I brought up a comment of this movie thinks it's sexy and it is absolutely not sexy.
Right.
This movie, even though you said it's kind of dingy, it has like kind of a sexy quality to it. Like it's
sleek.
Yes, like it has a sleekness to it, and it kind of knows it to some degree, but it can't quite get there because of the problems. And that's kind of what I like about it. Like it's like there's a coolness about this movie in a lot of the scenes that it just, unfortunately, the editing kind of ruins stuff. But yeah, I really don't see, other than some of those gripes and those back end stuff that were out of control of a lot of the actors and probably even the director, right? If you run out of money and you're told like you've only got X number of days to film this and you only can be in this location for this amount of time, and that's incredibly stressful, and trying to get a massive big budget franchise's next film out the door is not easy. So but I can sit and watch this and enjoy it for what it's worth. Is it the perfect follow-up to Casino? No, it isn't. It probably never could have been a perfect sequel necessarily.
Yeah, how would you make the perfect follow-up to it?
Yeah.
I think it's a complimentary one, though.
Yeah, there's elements that definitely could have been better that might have helped this kind of duology match a little bit better, for sure. But yeah, I'm going to stick with a 5, so... And for you?
I chuckled because 5 is exactly what I had in my head.
I don't know. How many of these have we honestly not agreed upon? Like, at
least
within, like, at most a point. There's only been a couple.
So. Yeah. I think if we were to smush these two movies together, we kind of do. We're doing this back to back, but it works because of the build up that you kind of get with the really. You could almost put this into one of those 2 VHS tape.
the chunky
the fiddler
box
on the roof
with the 2. Yeah.
Or Dr. Zhivago, but infinitely better. I hate that movie so much. Oh man. But so like in certain ways it's like Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles.
Yeah, kind of.
It's kind of that. Like, to me, and maybe I'm wrong, a lot of people focus on the Sonic 3. And Sonic and Knuckles is just kind of the appendage. That's what this is. It's like everybody focuses on Casino Royale, and Quantum of Solace is the appendage. And I don't care what people say. Quantum of Solace is a good title. Like, I like the title. It is a nice phrase. It's just kind of got this mystique to it. It's kind of like, what the hell is really going on here? And it's, thematically it works. It's just like, yeah, anybody who was dissing on the title, they can go away.
They can engage with you in conversation and dialogue.
Yes. Please. But I've got to go with the 5. It's there is. I agree with you. There's a sleekness to it that's because it is more grounded and rough and just a lot more violent. Where something that tries to be that way, but is bonkersly stupid, like something Die Another Day, it doesn't have that stinkiness to it. Like it just doesn't. It just doesn't.
Well, no, it doesn't. It doesn't have the goofiness like a Moonraker, Die Another Day, like Octopussy, right, with some of the goofy stunts and stuff. No, it does not have any of that. It's the groundedness probably helps. And yeah, there's still a level of believability that you have to forego. Like that airplane stuff is just kind of like,
it's as goofy as
this is like suddenly this plane that can basically shoot down this other plane just crashes into another, a mountain. Is like,
that's
while the engine is on fire.
That's a little disorienting. So,
but yeah, as a whole, I think we're in agreement on our thoughts on this. Sounds like so. Not a perfect film. I'm not going to sit here and say it's perfect. It's not. But I also having a hard time understanding why it's hated as much as it is.
Yeah, like you said, it's because it's following up a really well-loved, enjoyable film with something that is tonally very different. It is tonal whiplash compared.
Yep.
Which is fun.
Yep.
So, yeah. Do you have an idea where I'm going with this? Have you?
I'm not too sure. So we have, I think, one film from each Bond actor, except for obviously Lazenby, left. So, and we have 2 for Brosnan, I believe it is.
That is correct.
So, I mean, if I have to guess, I'm assuming you're going to pick a Brosnan, like just because of the, based on the numbers, but I don't know if that's the case. So,
we are getting rid of more. We are going to The Spy Who Loved Me. More is getting kicked.
I'm gonna find out if there's like a secret Roger Moore Bond thing that we gotta watch somewhere at the end.
Yeah. I mean,
I've
got to go with the spy.
You've tried so hard to get over this hump of these Roger Moore flicks.
I will usher him out the door. We will bid adieu to Sir Roger Moore. Is it going to be
like how Mathis got disposed of in Casino Royale, where
it's just tased,
dragged off screen while being tased?
Because we've held on to this one because we've had thoughts about this one.
Yeah, we did. This is another
watch this one. Yeah,
another one lost to the annals of time. So
annals of time.
I hope that's not the next Bond movie.
Oh my goodness! Oh boy!
You know, there probably is an adult Bond movie somewhere.
I do not want to know.
That has a very inappropriate title that's from one of these. Although Octopussy, they probably didn't have to try too hard.
You didn't have to go too far on that
one. Okay, so I wasn't sure. I had no idea. I kind of thought you might go with a Brosnan to just keep the balance there.
No, I think I get the balance, but in the same hand, it's.
You just can't.
Well, no, I just want the palate cleanser. I want the palate cleanser because particularly with Casino Royale and GoldenEye, they got a strong connection to one another. Mm-hmm. So, I didn't
director-wise at least.
Well, that's what I was.
Yeah.
So, I didn't want to quite go that route because I was like,
I was thinking it was going to be Tomorrow Never Dies.
I was thinking about that, but I was like, no. It's a little subterfuge. Cloak and Dagger. The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yep.
So. Oh boy.
Let's get to it.
Let's go.
This is going to be our first 5-hour look at one of the Bond. I'm going to draw it out. I'm going to analyze every minute of this movie because you've taken away the pleasure of going through the Roger Moore end of this catalog.
How I took it away.
I will do a Shakespearean soliloquy on the amazing performance of Carl.
Good old Carl.
Yeah.
So.
Sounds
all
good.
Right. Yeah. Anything else you want to add to this, or?
No. I just I would say give this movie another chance if you do not have particularly fond memories, and if you haven't watched it in a while, maybe just give it another shot. And it is it is, I believe, the shortest of the bunch too. So you can get through.
It's a quick jaunt.
Yep.
Yeah.
It sure is.
So yeah, I agree. Give it another go. That's it. So. Thanks for listening. If you have any sort of comments, you wish, disagreements, all sorts of fun things, please let us know. And until then, we will return.